Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Oh, I just realized I forgot to put on music. Hang on, let me fix that really quick. Sorry we weren't, or I wasn't streaming yesterday because it was 4th of July, and I figure a lot of people would have that off, or at least a lot of Americans, rather, would have that off. Let me get that down to an appropriate volume. There we go. Whoopsie daisy. Perfect. Yes, but happy Friday. We're back playing Book of Hungry Names. Last week I had to stop sort of in the middle of what I was doing because I had a little emergency that popped up. It was my dog. He was throwing up. He's fine though. He's good. And so what I was doing was I was in the barrows with Melody, and I was sort of just looking around the barrows because there's all these things have opened up for me now to get some chiminage going and get some stuff. Obviously, like always, I don't have enough, like whatever it is that they want from me, like my convictions aren't in the right order, or I don't have enough honor, or whatever the situation happens to be. But that's fine. I like looking at it. And what I was doing is I was going to go hike up to the cemetery. And so what I read really briefly before I closed out the game is that Eyes of Clay's name is here at the cemetery. So let's read this really quick. The cemetery is surrounded on all four sides by sluggish black water with a bridge of paving stones that connects it to other patches of dry ground. The first thing you see is an ancient beehive carved of wood and wicker. It's in the form of two wolf-headed figures joined at the crotch and the mouth. Though quiet right now since it's winter, you can feel the spiritual energy of the queen bee. Past the open wrought iron entrance to the cemetery are the dead. So many dead. This was, you suspect, a temporary holding place for the slain of Broadbrook, who would have eventually been moved into a barrow, but there aren't enough survivors to do the work, so here the dead rest under a thin layer of earth and snow. Their grave markers are simple granite bricks the size of shoeboxes. You recognize many of the names and note the Garu glyphs that depict their moon signs, tribal allegiances, and in some cases deed names. Lawrence Pole, called Greynail, Silverfang Arun, Jane Luchi, called Holds the Dawn, Shadow Lord Galliard, Catherine Aslanian Day, Shadow Lord Theurge, that's Elton's wife, right? Linus Harriman, called Knife Eyes, Silverfang Galliard. That was Daphne's husband. Martha Mendez, child of Gaia Ragabash. Roger Fitzroy, called Eyes of Clay, Heart Warden Arun. Oh my god, we're the same tribe as Clay. I didn't even realize he was a Heart Warden. I had forgotten. Eyes of Clay? What's Clay doing here? You kneel down and run your hands over the brand new slab of granite. It's just like the other 50 or so grave markers. Man, there's a lot of stuff here for me to still look at. So Clay, how's Clay? The grave marker is newer than the others, many of which can't be more than a few years old. As you wipe freezing slush off of the marker, Clay materializes much as you remember him, a leathery old man in a dirty thermal shirt and steel-toed boots. He glares down at you, then spits. I better not be some kind of fucking head in a jar in some bullshit future where the Weaver won, he says. I better really be dead. Yeah, you're finally dead, you dumb asshole. You ate poison monster meat, which is true. Hi, Jerry, welcome in. I would have died fighting, Clay says. You died in your bed, you say. Actually, my bed. You turned into jelly on my bed after you ate a fomor. We've got a cemetery full of god heroes here, so you must be some kind of object lesson in what not to do. Who the fuck bound me here? Clay snaps. My tribe wouldn't pull this shit on me. You're at Broadbrook, you say, wondering if that'll jog some memory or at least piss him off, but he just shrugs. You're sure Clay knew about it, but this isn't Clay, just an echo, a clay-shaped fragment of renown that drifted east until it floated over the Berkshires. Melody must have snagged him. So making fun of him is pointless. Maybe you can use this fragment, though. So you're basically a gift with a bad personality, right? What can you do? Victory, he says with a shrug. Blood and pain and victory. That's the way of the full moon, girl. But you can see how transparent he is around the edges. You think that means Clay is only strong enough to grant gifts to those he knew well in life. Well, hey, he knew me. Using Clay's gifts. When you use your Krynos Warform, Clay heals your lesser wounds and grants you additional ferocity in combat. The secret of primal rage is only for Aruns. Well, that sucks. That sucks. I knew him really well, I would venture. I want it. Give me a gift. No one ever wants to give me gifts. God, there's so much to do here. I'm so overwhelmed by choice. Let's look at Holds the Dawn, because that's a sick-ass name. Jane Luchi, chieftain of the Broadbrook Shadow Lords, appears with a clap of thunder and a long, low howl. The Galliard appears first as a dark gray wolf with strangely short fur, like someone buzzed it down and let it regrow for a few days. Then she shifts into her Homid form, a dark and intense Italian-American woman with close-cropped hair, a ragged jean jacket, and a bass guitar. She looks like if Joan Jett had to bulk up for a heavyweight fight. Amazing. So, yo, what we got now, huh? Jane says, looking you up and down. She has a pronounced Boston accent, even rougher than Podge's. I don't know if I can go any rougher than that. I haven't lived in Boston since 2006 or something. Her fingers work the frets of her bass. You play? Yeah, Overwatch, Fortnite, some Wordle. Oh, fucking comedian here, the Shadow Lord says. I bet that didn't save Knife Eyes, now did it? Oh, can it, Jane? The ancestral remnant of Knife Eyes says from an adjacent headstone. You're just mad that Wolf Girl can play Bark at the Moon and you can't. Ignore him, Holds the Dawn says with a wave of her hand. The other Galliard vanishes. I can play. Wait, that's not the point. The point is that I can teach you how to win. Not fight, that's someone else's job. But I can make sure that others fight. Sure the others fight. You got me? She strums her bass. Using Hold the Dawn's gift, Jane Luchi helps you lead your fellow Garu into battle. Her power works automatically as long as you haven't lost the wolf and relies on your resolve. A proud and determined Galliard with good relations among the Heart Wardens. Hey, I'm a Heart Warden. Holds the Dawn is willing to bless Howling Moon Werewolves and the Acolytes of Stag and her own patron, Vaughn, who are wise enough to understand her lessons. Though you've shown great wisdom, Holds the Dawn finds you incurious and too concerned with creature comforts. Excuse me? I live in a shack. I have nothing to my name. I bought a bike. Okay, come on. Come on. I mean, in character for Clay to not... Yeah, I know. It is super on par, super in character for Clay to say, screw you. Hi, welcome in. Hi, Furnace. Thank you for the sub. You're amazing. Love seeing you in here. That is so on par. That is so on par that nobody likes me. That is the story of Sierra's life, is that nobody likes me. I really like Podge, and I bet he's going to be like, I like you as a little sister. I like you as a friend. That's going to be my... Alright, let's check out Greynail's gravestone. Warrior King of the Broadbrook Silverfangs. He won't give me anything. Greynail died so gloriously at the Battle of Graves Farm. You see a flicker of his last stand, surrounded by howling Fomori, muzzle black with demon filth, that the previous ancestral war master has been allowed to rest. A mighty Arun, Greynail burns with spiritual power and promises you death, glorious, magnificent death. Greynail enhances your close combat abilities. His gift works automatically as long as you haven't lost the wolf and draws on your resolve. An ancestral war master is willing to bless any werewolf, not just Arun, provided she has fought gloriously for Gaia and learned the value of rage. Though you've certainly earned your warrior marks, old Greynail thinks you're too focused on spiritual matters. Well, which is it? Am I too focused on creature comforts, or am I too focused on the spiritual and the existential? Which is it? Pick one, guys. Pick a lane. Okay. Yep. I'm feeling real good about myself. All right, who's Martha? I don't even remember anymore because I'm getting annoyed. What's their name was right. Adult life is just like high school, just more money involved. Yeah, exactly. Promises you death. Kana intensifies. Martha appears above her grave marker in the form of a shining golden wolf, her pelt spotted with streaking umbral stars. One of Broadbrook's few children of Gaia, Martha taught Nin and helped keep the Silverfang and Shadow Lord factions working together until she couldn't. The ancestral spirit is a tapestry of despair and frustration. She blames herself for Broadbrook's fall, but she's so pale and attenuated that she can't explain exactly how. These aren't Garu in the cemetery, you remind yourself. They are legacies made almost tangible. Martha's spirit burns with humility and mercy, wisdom and honor, but this isn't Martha, only her memory. And she lacks the strength and cohesion to offer a gift to anyone except those she was close to in life. In that, she's a bit like Clay. You can only stare into her sad eyes until she sinks back into the black earth. Dope. Sweet. Okay, who else's grave is here? I can't remember. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So I'll just go in order because I'm losing all faction of myself. Didn't I do Malachi Palace? Yeah, I did that. Skip that. Chains the Lie. Nisha Wings of Sonya. Black Spiral Dancer. Oh god. I'm overwhelmed. Alright, let's go talk to the Black Spiral Dancer. That sounds funny. You're pretty sure there's something there. On the other hand, you also know that any exploration will involve unearthing the dead, perhaps in a literal sense. Right, I think I did this, and I don't think it saved me doing this. I remember digging with Melody. Let me just go through this really quick. Yeah, I need to dig. Breaker of Wings, Wings of Smoke. It's probably a coincidence, right? You wipe more black dirt from the niche. Old bricks tumble away. The earth over your head suddenly feels very heavy, but there's no cave in. You take out a lighter and watch the flame bend. There's a passage. A few minutes of work clears a hole large enough to wiggle through. You roll into a small circular chamber with the remnants of a writing desk and filing cabinets. The air smells rotten. The cabinet creaks when you open it. Yeah, I remember this. I remember talking to Melody, talking about all the dead people here. Yes, I remember all this. Okay. Great. Yes. Let's see. Huh. I can get Holds the Dawn gift all of a sudden. Why can I get Hold the Dawn's gift all of a sudden? That was grayed out before. What did I do? I dug around in the graveyard with Melody and now I can get the gift? Well, sweet. I'll take it. Gimme. Jane has a simple request: compile her music and get it to Nin. You visit her old apartment, but it's been rented out for years and no one has any record of her belongings, so you text Elton, who tells you that the Gaultiers moved Jane's things into storage. A bike ride to a self-storage facility on Damon Road reveals that the Gaultiers let the payments lapse on the storage facility, so everything went to auction. But you know your way around an investigation, and a few conversations reveal the names and habits of frequent auction goers. After a few phone calls, you manage to speak with the man who owns the music store near Elton's flat. He sold off Jane's bass and other gear years ago, but after some rummaging around, he finds a Zappos box full of old scores and notes. He doesn't have any interest in them and surrenders them to you to free up space. What Jane really wants, though, is the thumb drive that's in the box. It has the only recording of the legendary Hog Throne Dare 16 show, an hour of metalheads and stoners losing their minds in an abandoned Smith College horse barn because Massachusetts voters just legalized weed. Roscoe and Marlon didn't... That's long after I moved away. I am old enough to remember when before gay marriage was legal all over the United States. I remember when it was legalized in Massachusetts. 2005. I was 17, maybe. Roscoe and Marlon did an incredible job with the recording, which has that Kisses Alive better than Being There energy. Jane's old band, Bubblegum Hurricane, great name, mostly does their own songs. They're good, but they lack Nin's technical virtuosity or Trevor's rumbling baritone. But the crowd wants to get wild after their victory, and since this is the exact high-water mark for all that synthwave retro 80s shit, Jane gives them what they want with her cover of Stan Bush's Dare. God, Kyle must be such, like, a music file. He must know so much about music. Everyone loses their minds. Guys dressed in silk screen jackets and girls still rocking steampunk burlesque corsets scream and thrash like they've never heard rock and roll before. It's fucking pandemonium. And the show ends in a riot halfway through Jane's cover of Dan Fogelberg's Face the Fire when the horses and camels get out. Great Gaia, what a show. And this was before Elton's generation of Garu. None of them are even there yet. You sweep the file for veil violations one last time, but you don't see anything, so you upload it to YouTube, then get everything else onto Jane's old website. The spirit world is strange. As promised, the whole adventure takes exactly 5 nights. Holds the Dawn bestows her gift upon you the moment you return to her grave marker. Yay! Yay. Yay. Yeah. I know. I understand that I changed my convictions, but I just, it gave me the option to go, like, dig up some dead people, to go, like, dig up the area where a Black Spiral Dancer is buried. I just didn't know it would happen so quick. I just didn't know, like, I was so close to on the line of being more into creature comforts than getting my hands dirty. I had no idea I was so close to that line because I don't know what toppled me over into creature comforts, because I like haven't, besides buying a bike, I haven't like spent any money on anything for myself. I'm taking furniture out of people's trash. I don't think I've spent, maybe I have, maybe it's me and I am in real life more close to my own creature comforts that I just don't think it's that big of a deal. It's probably just a me thing. Yeah. Makes me more curious. Yeah. I don't know what's going on, but I'll take it. Sierra is basically me at this point. We've basically channeled Huddy right into Sierra. The return of fuckface and the shitheads. Let's go. Yes. Okay. So I have study Chains the Lie. I still have to look at Catherine and Knife Eyes. Let's do Chains the Lie. Let's just go in order. You wipe dirt away from a brass plaque to reveal a graven crucifix and Marianne Theodore Lubiesque. Chains the Lie, artisan of the Silver Fangs, he who laid the first, I think I read this before, first and final brick. May the three families always remember the last Garu born to them and the wisdom of his deeds. Right, and it says it wasn't the last because Melody was the last one born to the palaces. Right. His spirit only appears as the faintest echo. You're not sure enough of his legacy remains to offer you a gift. Right. I do remember that. I did read that. It did not save me there. Let's do Catherine's grave. Hopefully Elton doesn't come back. There's a single hyacinth in front of the stone, frosted with rime. You touch it, then flinch backwards as an entire spirit materializes over the gravestone. Catherine resembles her oil painting with long, loose blonde hair and a pale blue dress. Oh, goodness. She looks around confused, then focused on you. Terry, do you have my Molly? Want to get high? Yeah, you got $50. Okay, I have to say this. Because Molly is small m, so obviously she's asking for ecstasy. Who's Molly? Oh, a practical joker. I see how it is, Catherine says. This is why I only date boring boys. Oh my goodness. Then she looks around. Oh, wait. Am I dead? She sighs. The wind is so cold your eyelashes crystallize. You step back. I bet we've had this conversation like 20 times before, right? I'm not even me. I'm just an ancestral vestige. That would explain the lack of self-awareness. I'm not saying Elton misses you. Fuck off. I'm not saying that. I don't even want to. It's not really her. What's it like being dead? I'm not the one who's dead, Catherine explains. The real Catherine has been, I guess, recycled by Gaia. Or in hell for my sins, if the Beninskis were right. Hold on, I'm saying that right. I'm sort of a fragmented, crystallized legacy preserved by my deeds in life. Not smoking and going to hardcore shows. Like, because of all the sorcery I learned. I was a prodigy. I mean, seriously, I was the best Theurge in a generation. She looks down at herself. Why the hell am I in my 20s instead of an old matriarch? What happened? You died young and beautiful, Catherine says. It turns out that's not what I wanted. Anyway, I guess I have to fulfill my purpose now. That's so sad. It's so sad. I could not have brought myself to say the Elton thing. Like, absolute. Like, Kyle, love you to death with all the love in the world. Fuck all the way off. I can't emotionally take that on live stream. Catherine teaches you how to summon, bind, and control spirits, turning them into allies. Probably for Theurges only. Catherine, only use, yeah, for Theurges. Yeah, that sounds like a Theurge only thing. All right. And last is Knife Eyes. Did I not do Knife Eyes already? I feel like I already did Knife Eyes, but let's do it again. This was Daphne's husband, right? Linus Harriman, deed named Knife Eyes, was a Silverfang Philodox in life, though apparently he wasn't anything like Melody or Old Man Palace for that matter. A local radio personality, environmentalist, and concert promoter, he kept the Broadbrook Garu close to the human world. Though unlike many of the Broadbrook Silverfangs, he regarded the three families with suspicion. He left for a few years to wander with a silent strider, married Daphne Clear, a glasswalker, and came back to encourage Broadbrook to treat their bone gnawers better. Yeah, that's right. Treat my baby rats well. That's the impression you get, like a staticky radio where you can barely hear the music. Knife Eyes was respected, even loved, but he earned only a modest amount of honor in his lifetime. One day soon, he'll probably fade entirely into the spirit world, but right now, Garu can contact him and ask for his gift. Knife Eye grants this gift to joyful and honorable Garu who are, like him, either Galliards or servants of Falcon. Well, crap. I have 6 of glory. Can I channel it directly into the barrows? Should I do that? I don't love doing it. I don't love doing it because there's always a point where I'd rather just save it. But I could. But I could. But I won't. All right. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I think I've done all of these things. I really think so. I'm not paying off the cops. Ooh. The Fomori. My God, can I find the opportunity to spend more time with my pack mates? All right, all right, I feel bad. Let me go back to the barrows. I'm gonna perform chiminage into the barrows. I just feel bad if I don't do something. Oh God, I could offer so many nights of glorious chiminage, like a ton. And I might. Let's split it though. Let's just do 3. Because I have 6. The gods love glory, though in these civilized modern nights they try to hide it, but it's true. They love steaming entrails on gilded platters and the breaking of spears and the way a man's body comes apart at death, like the knots have all been pulled out. The dead love it too. They love to hold up their hands and feel the hot blood on their withered palms. They love to know you'll join them soon. It's really fun being a werewolf. It's super great. You offer them howls of glory, shouts of battle, and promises that soon the enemies of Gaia will die screaming. It delights them. Looking around, you see how much the barrows have healed after David Beninsky's depredations here. Almost all of the cement and metal rubbish has been removed or repurposed. The last few remaining unnatural plants have withered, and the smell of corruption is gone. Those last 2 are at least partially due to it being winter, but you don't think they'll return. Melody has been busy repurposing the physical artifacts of the Fomor's defilement, and now footpaths wind among the different barrows, and little floating bridges wait for the spring rains, when they'll help you cross the fast-flowing water. That's lovely. That's lovely. Yes. I want to find an opportunity to spend more time with my packmates, please. Yes, please. Yes. Yes, yes. Your modest financial cushion means you can take some time off, and while you don't want a hangout session to cut into your training time, you should be able to find an hour or 2 here and there for one of your companions. I want to spend time with Podge because I think he's really cute and I like him. So I want to spend dinner out together. Like, do you eat food? You want to eat food with me? You've eaten breakfast, lunch, and dinner with Podge here in the cabin, but the idea here is to go out for dinner. The other idea is not to make it super weird because you live with him. No, let's make it weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. And he maintains the Wi-Fi. Podge is actually out a lot lately, handling some kind of cemetery crisis with Melody. But so I dug up a bunch of bodies. But whenever you and he are together in cabins downstairs, general purpose room, you sort of hint that you and he should go out sometime. Podge is not generally a subtle werewolf, but it takes you a few days of casual conversation to realize that he'd love to go on a date with you. Oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. You'll just have to find a time when you're both free. I want to do it now. That's why I said so. That's why I said. Anything with Podge is going to be complicated by the fact he's also your roommate and handyman, even though you know a bit about home repair. Compared to the constant stress, violence, and lack of free time in your lives, the sheer potential for awkward encounters in the kitchen makes you hesitate. Or maybe you're overthinking things and the main risk here isn't boyfriend worries in the normal sense, but that you're a rage-addled monster, unfit for the modern world, trying to interact with same. Or maybe you're just making excuses as you walk home one evening after a long day at Gorski Manor and realize that you have some free time. No chiminage maintenance obligations, no library work with Elton, no worrisome information about Neo Albion or the Cult of Fenris that you can follow up right now. So now all you need to do is act normal and ask if Podge is interested in maybe getting some dinner or something. Normal, not weird, not falling all over yourself because a boy is cute. Great Gaia, have some dignity about this, Sierra. Sierra is allowed 0 dignity. 0. Just ask normal, then act normal. Maybe it's just a sort of casual thing with dinner and conversation, just you and an incredibly hot guy with a permanent aura of simmering erotic menace. See, right there, that sentence that you just said, Sierra, is the most not normal sentence. And so, don't even bother trying to be normal. You aren't and you can't, so just lean into it. You knock on Podge's door and it opens, blasting you with hot, moist air and blinding light. Podge is surrounded by computers, fans, and little potted plants, his skin shiny with sweat as he stares through eye-strained glasses at flickering data. Podge, you say? Maybe you came at a bad time. Podge grunts. You were at work for 10 hours and then helping Elton scout Rosemary Street for 5 hours before that, and you don't think Podge has moved since then. How are you? You start to say, and the power flicks off. Awesome. Oops, Podge says. A few blue lights flicker on. Podge's ever-moving tattoos are radiant in the darkness. What happened? You ask. Nothing, in the end. Podge says, rising shakily. He opens a mini fridge, finds it empty except for an empty jar of kimchi and a half-frozen donut. Wait, this is your chance. What are you here for? You had a plan. Right. Hey, let's get some dinner. You said that. Good job. Breakfast, you mean, Podge says. It's 8 p.m., you say. 10 minutes later, Podge is showered, dressed in enough layers to survive the winter, an actually nice cold weather scarf, and duck boots. I don't know what duck boots are. Underneath all the layers, his t-shirt reads, I don't eat my friends. Amazing. It shows pictures of Nixon, Reagan, and Thatcher for some reason. His pupils are pinpoints as he gets into the truck. He seems ready for a date. Go, Sierra, you can do it. Yay, a date. I assume we are driving to a nice place. I shut up. Yay, a date. I have to say that, even though I'm saying it internally. But I don't want to, like, not talk to him. I don't want to, like, not talk to him. That's even worse and weird. Stop being weird. Yeah, I'll say, just because I want the game to know that I am excited that it might be a date. I want the game to understand and acknowledge that. Yay, a date. After a few minutes, Podge says, I'm sorry if I've been distant lately. I'm prone to fixation, and that can manifest as the outer appearance of hard work, even when I don't actually move toward the goal I explicitly established for myself. At least that's what my therapist said before my first change. That poor woman, Jesus. He shakes his head. Did you... You don't really want to ask it, but you know that a werewolf's first change can leave corpses. What, kill her? Oh no. Broadbrook and some local Garu saw my first change coming and kettled me before I made a mess, Podge says. She got hit by a frozen sandwich that fell out of a helicopter. Paralyzed. This is great first date material. The lights on the dash flicker. Sorry, he says, still working out the kinks in the truck's all-electric conversion. But after some sputtering, the truck gets back underway and Podge stops in a church parking lot. You can smell pizza as Podge leads you to a community supper inside the old church. Wow, it's an immense structure built with the same kind of brownstones that remind you of upmarket houses in Boston and New York City. Don't worry, Podge says. I'm not making you sling lentils. We're going to get something to eat. They try to do this thing to break down who's getting fed and who's doing the feeding, so no one feels shame or whatever. As Podge stops to chat with a woman who looks like she ran through a museum store and got covered in klimt kaftans and Eye of Ra jewelry, you turn your thoughts to poverty, humanity, and the Bone Nar tribe. This is very, very Bone Nar. I admire the tribe's connection to all this regular humanity. I'm mostly going to try to not make a fool out of myself. This is the new wilderness. I interact because I have to survive a dangerous artificial jungle. I am not entirely... Okay, hi, my name's Huddy. I'm a World of Darkness community ambassador, and I'm also dumb. I'm also super dumb. I'm not entirely sure that I understand the meaning of this sentence. So even though this is like... I'm not going to pick it because I don't know if I understand what it is that I would be saying should I pick this. So I'm going to just say I admire the tribe's connection to all this regular humanity because that is a true statement to me. I love the Bone Nars. They're great. If anyone wants to explain the sentence to me, to dumb puddin' in the head me, I would love to know. So stupid. It's not easy even being around people. Plenty of werewolves don't bother. They live up in the wilds among what's left of the shattered Garu nation, defiantly maintaining their own inhuman culture, occasionally rambling into town to trade or steal to punish humans for reasons they can't hope to understand. A bit of carnage, a horror story that quickly fades to delirious whispers, then back to the wilds. You and Podge are different, though. Broadbrook has always been part of the valley, but even among the surviving Garu here, you have your ridiculous little job, and Podge has connections like these. He doesn't move among humans like a sheepdog among sheep. He doesn't move among the humans like a sheepdog among sheep, even. He almost seems like one of them. He's not, you remind yourself. You look haunted by the two worlds in which we find ourselves, Podge says, emerging from a group of tired-looking humans. The cure is pizza. Someone who watched a lot of Daria, that is a statement near and dear to my heart. He hands you a slice. And try to look ambiguous, like it's not clear if you're helping out or helping yourself to dinner. As you serve and eat pizza, Podge talks about his family, an obvious opening to get to know him. Ooh, let's show him we were listening. The Broadbrook Garu helped you with your first change. If only Clay had honored the litany when I changed, everything might have been different. Oh, Broadbrook was a machine for grabbing werewolves, Podge says. I'm surprised they didn't scoop you up, but I think it was easy to see me coming down the pipe. Fights in school, mystical daydreaming, all those Kennedys I threatened to kill. Like, how was I supposed to know a bunch of famous ones died? One of them went to my school and he was an asshole, and then when I tell him I'm going to dome him the next time he goes swimming, I'm in the principal's office getting yelled at because of something the CIA did in Texas 100 years ago. I'm not gonna get... Okay, I guess Podge is a little bit of a conspiracy theorist as well. Do I overlook that because I think he's cute? Let's find out. Anyway, they picked me up right before my change. They weren't impressed, though. You are on this ambiguous date, at least in part because the Arun has impressed you, so why not? I mean, I changed really young, Sierra, Podge says. I know we all had Oz young, but I still felt like a kid. I didn't want to fight for Gaia. I didn't want to do any of that shit. No goals, then? You didn't want anything? I was 15. The thing I wanted most was like MIA and a Metallica t-shirt, Podge says. That's it? You ask? Yeah, just the t-shirt and maybe some big earrings. I don't know. Wait, that's not what you're asking, is it? The Arun shakes his head. Yeah, I had goals. I knew something was wrong with myself and the world. But what kid doesn't feel like that? Lots of kids. Depends on how apathetic you are. Then Broadbrook picked me up and told me I was Gaia's champion and I had to reverse the apocalypse. Then they forgot about me to argue politics with each other as I tried to tell them something was really, really wrong. Then they all died. When you're done eating, you sling pie for half an hour, talk to some people you recognize from the bike path or Rosemary Street. A big range from the worst hard luck cases to people who just want to be part of something. You meet people and watch Podge glad hand like a big city politician or old-timey gang lord, saying everyone's name and asking them about their lives. The Arun can be sullen and weird, but he's all business, almost certainly maintaining the gray market world that the old Shadow Lords ruled over and that Elton hates to interact with. And he's also feeding the hungry and trying to help people make connections that can stabilize their lives. He's obviously good at it, though like with everything else in the valley, 5 or 6 more werewolves would really help. You can see how tired he is, how thin he's stretched. There's also a clothing sale going on, lots of cheap surplus. The crowd gets into it and so do you, since you always need clothes on account of your occasional explosions. So does Podge, and with no one else nearby, you can talk to him about anything as you search among the cargo pants and combat boots. Your thoughts turn to... how to help people when we can never really be among them for long. Podge's surprising, fascinating interest in computers, normally the purview of the Glasswalkers tribe. Yeah, let's pick that one. Oh god, my nose. Being a bonar, Podge says, examining a t-shirt that says goblins and kobolds are the same thing, is about finding what everyone else has forgotten and putting it to use. It's not just computers, it's how much has been forgotten about computers. Computer archaeology, computer spelunking, my laptops are brand new, but the other stuff is old because people leave the most interesting things on their old computers. Some of them are still running. Do you know that if you log into old government telnet programs, you get to meet FBI agents who knew the president? I'm more careful now, though. As you search the racks, accumulating one pile each for yourselves of actually nice clothes and one shared pile for emergency shifts, Podge tells you all about computer history. Not the stuff regular humans know about, but the freak stuff. Deformed sewer monsters running their own Usenet groups. No, not ShrekNet. Not Podge knowing about ShrekNet. Hong Kong and Tokyo Glasswalkers developing encryption theory in the 70s, even a magic computer deck owned by Harmony, Broadbrook's resident alchemist. She didn't know how to use it. Harmony sounds a little technocrat, like a little bit like a technocrat, doesn't it? You're not sure how much he's saying is real and how much is bullshit. He might be messing with you a little bit. Oh man, I have to get it for Nin, Podge says. He holds up a t-shirt that depicts The Witcher playing a guitar and that reads, care for a round of Degent. She loves it when two things are put together. I don't know anything about The Witcher. Goblin and kobolds are the same thing, but those words could start a fight. It's true. It's true. It's absolutely true. I don't know. I don't get The Witcher. I mean, hi, I'm Huddy. I'm dumb. I don't know anything about The Witcher. I know, I'm such a fake fan. I'm such a fake nerd. I've never played the games. I think I've watched some of the show at one point, like clips or something, or I had it on one day, but I don't know anything, so I don't get the joke. I'm so sorry. The church is emptying out. The pizza boxes are empty. The rack's mostly stripped, but it's a surprisingly warm night, so you and Podge wander the bustling downtown streets. Happy shoppers, overworked and underpaid counter clerks, tasty food and supply chains of exploitation and suffering. College kids from all over the world, and the fossils burned to fly them here. You try to see both. It's hard to hold them both in your mind. Easy to slip into either thoughtless complacency or sullen, malicious rage. You suddenly find yourself at a loss for words, and the problem is that this town isn't very big. You can't walk for long, and you're already winding your way back towards your cabin. You wonder if you should talk about something more personal, less abstract. Oh, God. So are all our dates going to involve us going to work? Podge laughs and says, so this was a date? No, I'm sorry. You probably didn't want to sling pizza. But it's hard to relax all the way, I guess. I've only been living this life for a few years, but it feels like I've been doing it for 50. I don't really know what else to do anymore. Let me show you, Podge. Your conversation wanders back to computers, or should I call you Patrick, and the Garu, and from there to technology and the Garu, technology and Gaia, what constitutes machinery and property, the intersection of Garu politics and needs with human notions. It's obvious that in many ways, Podge really is his work. Almost all of the Arun is what he does. But you're pretty sure there's more to him than that. He sticks close to you as you walk through the woods towards your cabin. Oh my God. All right. I just hold hands as we walk home. This has been great, but I don't want to make it weird. I want to make it weird. I stop him and kiss him. Yes. Yes. They really couldn't get... Okay, thank you very much. Hand holding, how lewd, I know. I stop him and I kiss him. Podge is hard to get a read on, but when you go for it, he leans back. He still makes sure you're okay to get home. I thought we lived together. What do you mean he still makes sure I'm okay to get home? All right. So we've done that. Hopefully there'll be more. No, I don't want to pay off the cops. I want to read the notebook from Scarper before he died. Because I'm still not really clear on exactly what happened with Scarper, how he became, oh no, what's the name of the Black Spiral dancer? Eater of Names? I'm not entirely sure how that happened. I'm dumb, so I don't really get it. The morning after the fight at Esther's, you feared that the notebook never made it out of the restaurant, but you find it on the couch. Melody must have snagged it. It's been sitting on the coffee table ever since. You carry it to your room before work one morning and start to read. The first 3 pages appear to be your math homework from before your first change. After that are 16 pages of tightly packed coded writing interspersed with ink sketches. You've seen Scarper's code before, and you doubt even Podge could decipher it, so you check his frantically cross-hatched ink sketches to see if they reveal anything. One drawing of a parking lot catches your eye, but you can't figure out why. You think the low grim building with its figures who appear shrouded in fog depicts some place in Northampton, but where? You send a photo of the picture to the others. Damn, I know that place. Cottage Cortex is Melody? Oh, I can't remember. Got it. Langton, or is that Daphne? I can't remember. Langton, a shelter on King Street. Your memories of a year ago when you first came to Northampton are particularly vivid, tinged as they are with cold and hunger, and you dimly remember hearing a name on one of your first nights in town. You never stayed there. Right. You bet Scarper did. So now you have a lead. Asking about Scarper at Langston Shelter will almost certainly reveal someone who remembers the loudmouth Galliard. And with luck, Scarper's last few days will lead you to some key revelation about how Eater of Names came back. But even with this invaluable lead, you'll have to be comfortable moving among the desperate and dangerous fringe of both urban and rural society. You could do something else instead, like learning where the Femoria are coming from, but if you go after Scarper's ghost, you suspect you'll need all your street smarts and wilderness skills, of which I have none. Probably. I actually don't know. I don't know. What do I have in survival? 1? 1 and nothing in Streetwise. That's amazing. Do I have anything? Let me just check really quick. Do I have anything left to get Streetwise or? Ooh, I have 9 free days, so I better start doing stuff. All right, let's get a dot in Streetwise first of all. Let's do that, and let's see if we can't get a dot in Survival. I'm not sure from whom, but let's find out. Yeah, still have 7 free days. What the hell? Why not? Let's max this out. Let's max that out. Cause why not? Who was it? Lucinda was the Streetwise one? Nope. Roscoe. Oh, damn it. Ah, God. You had a great time on your pizza and thrifting date with Podge, but now you have 2 major problems. First, you live with... Why is that a problem? First, you live with... Isn't it super eater of grains? Isn't it super obvious that I'm a lesbian? Because I'm like, why is that a problem? Because lesbians move in with each other after like 2 weeks. Not speaking from experience or anything. First, you live with the guy, and every single interaction is now tinged with an ineffable awkwardness that makes you feel like you're back in 8th grade crushing on a skater boy, because he was the skater boy. Always being around someone who's a roommate and a good friend and whatever else is going on is not easy. Second, and even more annoyingly, you're both too busy to actually do anything together. You're constantly stuck at Gorski Manor. Podge has to maintain the social network you just saw at the pizza and thrifting date, and you both have to deal with tracking the Everlight fallout. You're able to find a bit of time together to watch an episode from Podge's immense video library, or just have dinner across from one another like an old married couple. You're also exhausted and overworked. You can't really do anything else. Oh yeah, it's fine, whatever. I just want to up my Streetwise, if that's all right with you. Let's go for it. Let's do it. Yes. Okay. There we go. Now I've maxed out Survival and Streetwise. What you gonna do about it? What you gonna say about it? All right. Let's talk about the Moth Fomori, and then we'll go back to Esther's. You send a group text at lunch, and Melody responds almost immediately. I've been scouting the woods around the bar. Nothing so far. Not even the webs anymore. Okay, Cottage Cortex is Daphne. I checked out David Beninsky's old place, tried to run down some serial numbers from his equipment. Nothing. Melody emails you and Podge a photograph of a physical map with her patrol routes traced in red. She's been thorough, but the New England woods are endless. You need to focus the search. The way you look at it, you have 2 main avenues of approach. 1, missing persons who have been infected with Banes and turned into Fomori, and 2, some kind of factory like David Beninsky's, or some kind of spawning pit where the Fomori are being created. When you get home from Gorski Manor, an hour on your phone turns up 2 leads. First, there's a kerfuffle on Nextdoor about deleted posts. I don't know what Nextdoor is. These posts concern a missing man who was... Oh, is it like a neighborhood app, right? Who was fired from the local bottling plant. With most of the thread deleted or locked down, you'll have to burn shoe leather to investigate. But you do have a contact name. Second, while you can't find anything about moths, Indeed shows a flurry of interest in mechanical and electrical engineering staffing. The companies otherwise show oddly little internet activity. The job descriptions are highly technical, so approaching the Fomor investigation from that direction would require some engineering knowledge. You could leave that investigation to Melody and concern yourself with Scarper's final days before Eater of Names consumed him, as you suspect that learning more about the Fomori would require investigation skills and at least basic knowledge of factory work. Yes. Well, I blew all my stuff into Scarper's thing, so it is what it is, baby. It's time to begin a serious investigation of what happened at Esther's. Boom. Let's do it. Let's do it. I love when it asks me if it's sure I'm ready. These investigations will involve your entire pack and may take you away from your daily routine for a considerable time. That's fine by me. That's fine by me. I don't want to go back to Vampire Manor. Bearing witness to Eater of Names' return was horrific, but you weren't totally surprised. Werewolves are hard to kill, and whatever happened to Eater of Names at the Battle of Graves Farm, he did not die all the way. With his physical body too damaged to survive in the physical world, he managed to flee into the Umbra. From there, he somehow infected Scarper and used Scarper's body to bring himself back to the physical world. You're almost certain that his resurrection, if you want to call it that, is tied up with Broadbrook's corrupted cairn, with the pattern line that you first noticed at Everlight, and with those Fomori you faced at Esther's restaurant. But how? And does Eater of Names connect back to the rancid flesh that killed Clay when the old werewolf ate it? Could that have been the mechanism by which Eater of Names returned to the physical world? After several meetings with the other Garu scheduled around your increased workload at Gorski Manor and constantly thwarted attempts to take Podge on a date that's more than the two of you watching videos on the couch together and then falling asleep, I don't know, I'm into that, you see two clear avenues of investigation. Either you and Nin try to trace Scarper's last days, that one, until Eater of Names destroyed him, or you and Melody can track down where the Fomori are coming from. There is, of course, a third point of interest, but Daphne Clear has refused to communicate with any of you except for one terse and ambiguous email. I will be consulting with certain machine spirits concerning the ramifications of what we witnessed at Esther's bar. She has not returned emails or texts, and Podge reports that she has not left GRC Media for several days, and that both Watcher spirits and physical security now guard the reinforced building. Elton thinks that she might open up if you bring her more information. Podge has been more worried about politics in the valley. Shortly after the events at Esther's restaurant, the mayors of Northampton and Amherst abruptly resigned, leaving municipal politics to a provincial expanded council. The police chief also resigned. That's no surprise after what happened on Rosemary Street, but local news has mentioned increasing public-private partnerships at all levels of policing. Melody sees the hands of Neo Albion in this, and behind the private security force, the resurrected Eater of Names. Nin and I work to... Yeah, me and Nin. I owe it to my old companion, even though he was a son of a bitch in the end. Scarper's fate holds the answer to how Eater of Names... And I'm curious what I can learn from his theurgy. Yep. You and me, Nin, you and me. You wait for a day when she isn't playing any shows and you're not working, then text Nin at breakfast. It's today, meet me at Langton. Podge, sitting across from you eating his store-brand Frosted Flake, says, I'm gonna drive south and see if we can learn more about those beacons you found while the computers keep analyzing those symbols we pulled off the pattern line. Let me know if anything comes up. You tell him as your phone boops. I told the others where we be. Anything from Daphne? You ask Podge. He checks his phone again, shakes his head. I'll let you know, the Bone Gnawer says. Bundle up out there. I don't want you girls catching a chill. Chapter 7. I almost said that. I thought it said moose. One for the mouse. If harm ever happens to me, that water on the top of the well will be blood, and the water below will be honey. William Butler Yeats, The Celtic Twilight, Fairy, and Folklore. I'm 100% positive I had this book at one point in my life. Or had that in a book, rather, is what I meant to say. Despite the bitter cold, the lack of snow means you can bike to Langton Shelter. Langton Shelter. You pedal as hard as you can, trying to warm up and trying to ignore the stink of trash in the streets. Whenever you blink, you see heaps of hot trash on the sidewalk and feel flies hitting your cheeks. An illusion, you tell yourself. The air is clean and cold. The world smells like dead possum. Lovely. Langton Shelter is a low cement building, gray-white and cold, like the gray-white parking lot and the gray-white sky. The sky yearns to snow but cannot, so there is only the blinding whiteness, the bitter cold. Even the cars are colorless, coated in pale grime. Only the graffiti on the walls stands out. When you enter, an old man screams at you to close the door, but it's mostly empty inside, since Langton doesn't offer breakfast. About a third of the cavernous interior is full of old garbage, stuff rejected by local thrift stores and left to pile up in trash bags or spread out on stained carpets. Nin moves among the junk. She obviously forgot to pack clothes again and just shifted back to her Hamid form. The Galliard is wearing red Wellingtons and a huge shiny puffer jacket like a Y2K era rapper. Missy Elliott had come through. She's digging through the rubbish for winter gloves. Are you ready for some serious cold? We'll be following Scarper's route west into the woods. Nin smiles, reaches into a trash bag and pulls out one hideous knitted hat for you and another for her. She's procured a decent supply of ugly or stained but warm clothes for both of you. You examine the sparse crowd of cold-eyed men and desperate women. You recognize a few people from around the town. When the Valley's Shadow Lords fell, the petty criminals they used for camouflage and convenience mostly scattered, as Elton didn't want to be on that Jabba the Hutt shit, as he once confided to you. You don't have time to run a full criminal enterprise, but you recognize... Is it like... seems like such a weird thing for Elton to say. You don't have time to run a full criminal enterprise, but you recognize several people here. They're mostly victims, not serious criminals. Nonetheless, talking with anyone here will require caution and cunning to avoid putting yourself in danger, or more accurately, putting yourself in a situation where rage takes over. Nin is nice by werewolf standards, but if seriously threatened, she'll kill someone, and you're the same sort of monster as she is. Of course, you could also throw caution to the wind, corner someone when they're alone, and make demands. Ugly, but potentially effective. If you don't want to risk a dangerous interaction, you could follow someone once they leave. That could take hours, but might yield useful information. And what about those graffiti tags outside? Might they tell you something? You know, I've used Owl a few times, but what's really bizarre is I don't think it ever works. I think whatever the role is for Owl, I think it's a very low pool for me. But I always keep trying, and I'm going to keep trying. So we'll take our time, patiently monitoring the crowds as they disperse, and use Owl to see where they go. You're bundled up enough to endure the cold for a few hours, but you hope Nin is up for a slow investigation. The Wolfborn is alternately frenetic and eerily patient, and you don't quite understand what drives her moods. Fortunately, Nin is in a stalker's mode as Langton's guests disperse into the cold wind. The air flickers with owl spirits, yours and Nin's. Or maybe it's the same spirit. You've never really been sure if it's one spirit per Garu or if it's all one big spirit. You follow a trio towards the McDonald's that won't throw you out as long as you don't cause trouble. You know it so well that you're able to get ahead of them and grab a table first. While Nin orders a McMuffin and then sneaks back into the understaffed work area to shovel fries into her knitted hat. Amazing. Nin's the best. You watch 3 old women file in with their empty cups of coffee, sit down, and pretend to drink. The conversation drifts interminably from why they didn't head south for the winter to which restaurants have started spraying bleach on their leftovers. Jesus. To what happened to that loud guy. Scarper? One of them asks. You pause, a slightly woolly French fry halfway in your mouth. Was that his name? Another asks. Yeah, no, he died, girl. Him and his dog. Some bikers from upstate killed him. Who says? The third asks. Do you know who it was? The second woman says. You're not gonna believe. Hey, you can't be here if you don't order anything. The shift manager shouts. He holds up his phone and starts filming the 3 women. Jesus. That's new. You and Nin shrink down to avoid being recorded. The women leave to avoid an altercation while the shift manager keeps filming them, then flips the camera around to record himself, telling his followers about what homeless people are like. You finish your fries and follow the women. I hope they roast him on TikTok. You spend the next hour out in the cold, trading off with Nin so the 2 remaining women don't know they're being followed. When you realize they're heading for the mini mall. Okay. You get ahead of them again and explain to Nin that she's to order a bagel and coffee, then pretend to leave in a hurry. Nin isn't a good actress, but she recites her lines just as the 2 women arrive and hurries away. They hesitate for less than a second before sitting down and splitting the bagel Nin left. It takes another half hour before they return to the confused tale of Scarper's death. No, Terry told me, one woman says. He was there. Isn't he dead too? The other woman says with a little laugh as they pass the coffee back and forth. Dying, the first woman says. He's at Gorski's. The other woman crosses herself. Lord, no one deserves that. When we talked to Catherine at the cemetery, didn't she ask for someone named Terry? Or am I imagining that? Am I remembering a wrong name? You're sure you've seen the name Terry Klein before on your daily rounds. Nin hops on the back of your bike, her usual enthusiasm for going fast, dampened by the cold air, as you head for Gorski Manor. Nin hesitates at the threshold, only the cold air compels her into the mildewy darkness of the decaying retirement home. You instinctively check the pipes to make sure they haven't frozen, then swing around the abandoned front desk and check the computer records. Klein, Terry, room 206. I remember Terry, Nin says. He lived in your cabin before you did. Dalton hustled at shows. Roscoe hated him. I don't like this place. She watches brown water drip from an exposed ceiling pipe onto a dusty janitorial cart. Oh, that's so rough. They're just junkies and mean old assholes. Don't feel too bad for them. That's so rough. I try to do what I can for these people, but it's hopeless. No doctors, no money. Nin says nothing in response, only heads for the stairs while humming an old Joan Baez song. She starts to go right, but you wave her back. That's the dementia wing, 210 to 231, and there's actual security there. You don't want Nin meeting, who's on duty now, Fran? They won't get along. You head directly for 206 and find the door slightly ajar. Damn it, you fixed that just last week. You push it open, ready for anything. A prematurely aged man lies handcuffed to a filthy gurney. Blue-black stains around his nose and mouth from oxygen tubing, though the supply next to the bed appears empty. The cold room smells like excrement. Oh my god. The window behind Terry is small and high, letting a slice of dingy white light onto the spotted tiles. You start to enter, then spot a mini security camera aimed at the bed. That's definitely new. Nin notices it too. She frog walks into the room and plucks it off the wall. With the camera turned off, you consider the apparent unconscious man on the bed. This is bad even for Gorski Manor, I tell Nin. I think the nurses have been ordered not to help him. This is messed up. Should I find a nurse? Nin asks. Not yet, you say. You've been drafted as an orderly on a number of occasions, and you check the old-fashioned paper clipboard to see who's been cleaning this room. There is a clipboard, but the cleaning records are blank. No medical notes either. You examine the oxygen equipment, which you've wheeled from room to room on many occasions. Only when you confirm this is Gorski Manor equipment do you remove your bulky gloves and inspect Mr. Klein himself. Your hands have finally warmed up, and that's when you realize that his skin is cold. This man is dead. Nin's rendition of Where Have All the Flowers Gone abruptly stops. Where did she go? You find the Galliard in room 212, which is empty except for a rolling desk with a laptop. Nin is watching security footage from the camera in room 206. Jesus Christ. Someone was there, Nin says. In Mr. Klein's room. I saw her. She reaches for the laptop again, then remembers that she's even worse at computers than you are. You examine the screen. The camera watched it for a total of 36 hours, but there's only about 2 hours of footage. Apparently the camera only turns on when there's movement. Nin edges around you and activates the first recording. 11:45 the previous night. Green fuzz of night vision. Mr. Klein's room in darkness. You recognize the woman as she steps into frame, wrapped in a tattered dress and a long cigarette-burned coat, fingers glinting with silver rings. It's Jazelle, the witch. I remember her. I remember the horrible shirt she was wearing. The 2 hours of footage contain about 10 interesting minutes. What you see is both illuminating and frustrating. Something is wrong with the camera's microphone. Though it's supposed to record audio, you get only static. You can't even try reading lips, since everyone who enters the room faces away from you, and is almost always between the camera and Mr. Klein's face. 3 people visited the night before last. Jazelle arrives at 11:45 p.m. She appears to make demands of Mr. Klein, which he ignores or refuses. She's the one who handcuffed Mr. Klein to the gurney. She leaves after 5 minutes and you get a single chance to see her lips as she talks. Scarper. And something else. Mr. Klein beckons for her again, but she doesn't come back. At 2:30 a.m., Nomi Pascalis, what? Enters and turns on the light. They hurry to supply the dying man with oxygen as he gestures frantically. Once they've followed his instructions, they try to get the cuffs off but can't. Mr. Klein eventually tells Nomi not to bother. Then the two talk for almost 20 unintelligible minutes. Nomi nods and takes notes. You roll the footage back and forth, zoom in, but you're only able to see a few words in their notebook. 2 of them are black tarn. Nomi must be asking about Scarper. The journalist's body language is unreadable, especially in their oversized windbreaker. Suspicion, professional sympathy, anger. You think you see them all at different times. Then Nomi shakes the man's free hand and switches off the light, then departs. What is that about? What is that about? They didn't show up in the most random places. Boy, howdy. Boy, howdy. Now I'm awful suspicious of them. Now I'm awful suspicious. I was suspicious before when they were all, like, knew enough stuff. I mean, I was only mildly suspicious when they were at Hog Throne. I was extra suspicious when they were, like, wanting to all look into Everlight and stuff. But I could explain it away, because if she is a journalist and she is, like, looking into, like, corruption in police and corporations, then fine. But this, nah, sus. Hella sus. Can't trust her. I don't know. I'm going to be a little less lenient now, because I was so worried about, like, saving her from Everlight or sorry, not her, them. Sorry about that. Saving them from Everlight and saving, them when we had burned Mr. Sullivan and his house to the ground. I was super concerned about them. But now I don't think I'm going to be as lenient should we come across them again, because this is sussy. Finally, Mr. Goultier's I beg your pardon? Drax enters at 5:15 yesterday. He turns on the light, but like Nomi, doesn't notice the camera. His tone is pleading, then furious, then frantic. The few glances you get of the dying man's face show pride and condensation in equal measures. Finally, Drax punches him in the face. He's chained. He's handcuffed. Finally, Drax punches him in the face, and then grabs his pillow and smothers him. Nin yells as if... Oh... Kill him. Nin yells as if she can intervene and save the man. He dies in about a minute, barely struggling. Then Drax tucks the pillow under his head and leaves. Nin grabs the laptop. What the hell's going on? Carrying around evidence of a murder is going to complicate our lives. Duh. Cool, we can download the videos to the laptop for a few $100. Please, no. I'm thinking we now have enough leverage on Drax that he can tell us more about what he knows. That one. Do you know where he lives? Nin asks. I can find out, you say. She strains, concentrating on an abstract concept that isn't music, then says, make a copy, and hands you a thumb drive. A bang outside, you both poke your head into the corridor, but it's only Charlie, the orderly, heading into the Alzheimer's wing. Nevertheless, Nin stands guard while you insert the thumb drive and copy the video data onto it. Nin's thumb drive mostly contains videos of Saint Homunculus shows, but there's enough room for the security footage. You review the footage again as the file copies to the thumb drive, looking for anything except the 3 conversations. You stop and roll back when you hear a voice, something other than the static. Sierra! Sierra, do you hear me? The hell? You roll back further and watch people move in reverse through the room. You didn't see those people before. You stop at 4:43 and hit play. A woman ignores Mr. Klein on the bed and turns to you, not bothering to turn on the light. You recognize her blue dress, even in the grainy monochrome of the camera's night vision. I knew it. I remembered. I deductioned that. Why was Catherine Day staring up at the security camera in your pocket last night? She's been dead for 4 years. Sierra, I don't have a lot of time, Catherine says, staring up at you with the luminous green-white eyes of someone on a night vision camera. You need to listen to me. We're the mindfucky part of the game. Look, whatever you are, if you got information, I'll listen. Wow, Elton said you'd be mean, Catherine says. What do you even think you're doing in there? The grayscale image is dynamic in the way Catherine's shade back at the cemetery is not. In a way, only the oil painting above Elton's fireplace manages. You feel icy sweat trickling down your back like blood from a wound. Listen, Sierra, there's something I want you to do, the Theurge says. Her voice is calm, like she's trying to get you not to jump off a bridge. Could you look out the window? You hesitate only a moment, then peek through the blinds to look out the storeroom's small window. Or at least you try. There's nothing out there. A whiteout? You put your gloves back on, reach under the blinds, and try to wipe the window without effect. The place you're in, Sierra, isn't real, Catherine says. Her voice is like the tolling of a bell. You've been... She's still in there? Another voice asks. Hold on, I'm talking to her, Catherine mutters. The dirty hospital room on the screen now contains Catherine, a bearded man you recognize as David Beninsky, not looking at all like a swollen Fomor with leathery skin, and an old but strongly built white man with close-cropped hair and a vaguely military bearing. You're not sure how, but you've seen him before, but only in Krynos form. That's Eater of Names. Okay. Tell me what you are and what's happening, because Huddy? Confused. David said you were interested in the truth, Catherine says. Hi, Sierra, David Beninsky says. He doesn't look at you in the eyes. Answers, you snap. You met David when he tried to enter the pocket reality you found yourself in, right? Catherine says, before it started to shrink. Shrink, you ask. You started near Buffalo, New York, and traveled all the way across New York State, Catherine says, speaking quickly as her voice crackles and the screen flickers. Then you ranged around the valley on both sides of the Connecticut River. For the last few months, you've confined yourself to short excursions. In the last month, you haven't left Northampton. And now, look out the window, Sierra. You try. There doesn't seem to be anything out there. The door is still missing. It's breathing out, David Beninsky says. It might get a little bigger for a few minutes, but... It's what? You ask? It what? It should be it's. What's breathing out? You're in the answering tiger, Sierra, Catherine says. You've been eaten. You've been in there for a long time. Stripes of shadow crawl across the blank walls as a dim, colorless light shines through the Venetian blinds. The window itself is gone, leaving the blinds floating against the wall, and the laptop screen appears to hover in emptiness. Is the laptop screen growing? Yes, its dimensions now resemble the portrait over Elton's fireplace. Catherine's dress and eyes are blue, and her hand is as pale as she reaches through the film between realities. Sierra, she says, you need to get out of the prison the answering tiger has trapped you in. Give me your hand. We need to go now. You feel the presence of a vastly powerful spirit, a terrible oppressive weight that threatens to crush your thoughts, to replace them with a vast and terrible alien will. It's the answering tiger. You're sure of it, but where is it? Working with alien spirits, which these things probably are, is against the litany. Fuck that, I don't care. I'm terrified. I'm like not, like, the litany's not my bitch anymore. Yeah, I'm like neither way on either of those things. I'm also a ragabash, so it's like... Oh God. I don't know. This is This is one of these things where I always make the bad decision. All right. Just to see what happens, I'm going to try and tell the spirits to leave. Just to see what happens. See if they put up a fight about it. Just to see what happens. You order the treacherous spirit to depart in the name of the litany and the power of Gaia, but the hand suddenly snaps forward and grabs you by the wrist. You see its claws as they bite into your soul, not your flesh. Cold gray pain numbs your senses as the shimmering hand tries to drag you through the rift, but you dig your heels into the colorless, featureless floor. You hold on with all your physical and spiritual strength, but inch by inch, the clawed hand drags you forward. And then a roar, a heavy weight blasts you backwards into the wall, which shatters like glass as you tumble through and fall down, down. Hard, cold linoleum, hot, wet air. You know that smell. You open one eye to see the storage room almost entirely occupied by Nin in her monstrous hispo form. Her breath steams in the cold air. The blinds hang in tatters and nothing remains of the laptop and the thumb drive except shredded chunks of plastic. Great. You feel terribly drained, but it's a spiritual ache, not a physical one. When you rise, Nin shifts back to her Hamid form, recovers her puffy jacket, and starts wandering the halls looking for her clothes. Confusion. 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 Can we not talk about what just happened? You and Nin spend 15 minutes patrolling Gorski Manor's empty halls, making sure that the intruder spirit has gone. Nin climbs up onto an empty bed and refuses to touch the cold linoleum until you track down some abandoned clothes in another deserted room. Once she has boots and clothes again, the two of you patrol the upstairs for more evidence of the spirit or ghost or whatever it was, but the intruder is gone. Though nothing remains of the computer equipment, you saw 3 people, real people, on that recording. The witch Jazelle, the journalist Nomi, and Drax, who smothered Mr. Klein. I wish I still had the thumb drive. It's so unfair. You're almost certain that all 3 know more about Scarper's last days than you do. You consider which person to contact. Jazelle is dangerous, clever, and cruel. She'll probably agree to help you, but you'd have to watch her like a hawk and know something about the occult to stay safe around her, which I don't. I'm fairly certain I know nothing about the occult. Let's see. That's not even one of my skills, so perfect. There will only be one way to approach Drax, threatening him with exposure. That's risky even with Nin backing you up, but you might be able to squeeze him for information now, then force him into service later on. And what about Nomi? They're not physically or supernaturally dangerous. We don't know that, but that damn blog of theirs, Cahoots, keeps inching closer to the truth. It would be easy to track them down, but harder to lie to them if they want to tag along. We don't know that Nomi's not dangerous. We don't know that. Let's do the stupidest option of these 4. I contact Jazelle, though a deep knowledge of the occult will be necessary to keep her from endangering us. Now, occult is not... occult is not a skill that I have. It's not a skill that belongs to me. I don't have it. So let's do that. That's funny and stupid of me. Let's do it. Still nauseated by the intruder's spirit assault on your mind, you make yourself and Nin some bowls of chicken and rice soup from the cafeteria. Oh, what I never eat here. The hot soup warms your hands, and Nin is more agreeable after she's eaten. What do you think is the easiest way to find Jazelle, you ask. Nin snarls, then says, the other bookstore. There are lots of bookstores in Northampton, just not the place Elton works, but Nin takes you unerringly into the suburbs. She nods when you reach the bookstore. You chain your bike up to the ugly chain-link fence that encircles a house no bigger than a trailer, while Nin opens the gate. You follow her, weaving through a hip cluster of Virgin Marys and peculiar idols. Nin knocks twice and goes in. You follow more cautiously. A mastiff rushes you, then immediately retreats when it sees Nin. Whining and sniveling, the huge beasts back off so quickly it knocks over a stack of books in the crowded living room. An antique record player crackles through a soprano aria. Unwashed dishes in a galley kitchen directly ahead foul the warm air. There's a combined bedroom and office to your right, its door open. You take in the layout so quickly that you barely notice the woman on the recliner. Papery white skin, white hair, cashmere sweater colored only by old stains, oatmeal-colored skirt. She doesn't look up from her book, doesn't even react to the panicked mastiff, which is now sniveling against the kitchen door. You think you've seen the woman before in the bookstore where Elton works, but you don't know her name. Nin winds around the idols and books to the far room, where magazines and paperbacks join the old leather-bound tomes. Jazelle sits at an Art Nouveau desk that could be a pendant to Elton's fireplace, smoking Chesterfield, smoking indoors in 2024, and reading a small hardcover book with an electric orange dust jacket, Naming the Tiger by Greg Halton. Dun dun dun. On the desk, a metal stand with a basin that holds burning lamp oil might serve as a lighter for Jazelle's cigarettes. Its tip glows red hot. The witch smashes her latest cigarette into an ashtray so intricately packed with butts that they form a hypnotic spiral design. She adjusts her heavy gray muffler and looks up at you with pale red-rimmed eyes. Good afternoon, Nin, she says. I suppose you're here because you need something. And you, Sierra, must be the one holding the leash. That must be tiring. What do you two want? Reading a good book? Good enough to get the writer killed, Jazelle says, carefully marking her place and setting the electric orange volume aside. Greg Halton believed that dead saints could return to life and walk among the living. What you or I might consider a blessing, he considered an affront to God, nature, and tradition. Greg wrote of tigers, but he was trying to describe an elephant, as in the old story of four blind men. He saw only a fraction of this spirit-plagued world, but he saw too much for them. She shrugs, smoke puffs out of her muffler, like an old carpet struck with a broom. We make mistakes, we get caught, we live or we die. But since we are both alive enough now, in our different ways, to act as we will, tell me, why are you here? And please be honest. Lies will only waste your time. Scarper, Nin says before you can open your mouth. Your poor dead friend, Jazelle says, her pale eyes on you as she rises. So this is about our shared enemy, Eater of Names. How do you know who he is? Nin asks. I spoke with a friend of mine and the subject came up, Jazelle says. She crosses to the living room, clearly getting ready to depart. Has she already agreed to help you? You don't know him, but... Terry, Nin says. He died. The witch freezes halfway to reaching for her tattered gray coat. What? She snaps. How? Ooh, I could give Drax up immediately. Doing it. Drax has never contributed to the world. I give him up. My landlord's son killed him. I have his address. Giselle's pale lips move as she memorizes the information. Then she pulls on her coat. Where are we going? Nin asks the witch as Jazelle winds a black scarf around her head. His house, Jazelle says, like Nin is an idiot. The witch drives a dirty white crossover with New Mexico plates, Land of Enchantment. Though she's in her Homid form, Nin hops into the back like some yuppie's golden retriever while you slide cautiously into the passenger seat. The car feels out of alignment in a way you can't explain, like it's going to slither up into the sky. Like that glimpse of Catherine in the video. But nothing weird happens as Jazelle backs it down the driveway and onto the residential street. It's a 5-minute drive to a cluster of rundown brick apartments surrounded by equally rundown cars. Jazelle parks, then moves unerringly up a flight of crooked, rotten stairs. She unlocks the door to a bleak little efficiency. Clay's old army jacket is on the ground, right in front of you. We do have one intelligence. Boy, we sure do. Look at that. Look at that, baby. Put me on Jeopardy. I'm ready. Why does she have Clay's jacket? You pick up the desert camo army jacket, which is so badly torn now that it's beyond use. Scarper bring it with him? The jacket holds cards for David Beninsky's gun shop and Jasper Heaney's leatherworks. That's some impressive investigative work from Scarper. You're not sure Jazelle needs to see them, so you pocket the cards. The efficiency is bleak and cluttered with cheap clothes covering even cheaper furniture. Food in the kitchenette is approaching its expiration date. Nin kneels down and runs her fingers through the synthetic carpet. She holds wolf hairs up to the afternoon light, filtering through the dirty windows. Jazelle seems content to wait outside in the bitter cold. Perhaps even a witch doesn't like being around so much rage. Or maggoty pizza. You and Nin meticulously search the room, uncovering irrelevant detritus from Terry and Scarper. A broken flip phone, expired coupons, rents, and takeout containers. The clothes reveal little, but you notice that the old boots, too small for Scarper, so they must belong to Terry, have runes buried into their soles. A bar and a hook. As you study the boots, Nin moves the couch. Jazelle watches the galliard as she peels a faded brochure off the sticky carpet. Its rubber sole font and faded exterior mark it out among the glossy new religious tracts and coupon books that cover the coffee table. Its cover reads Pine Island Retreat. It is or was a religious revival center west of town. That's it, Nin says. That's where Scarper was. You're sure, you ask? Feels possible. Pine Island is between your old home and your new one, and it seems like the sort of abandoned but still intact place where a werewolf might hide. I know, Nin says. I was there, after the Battle of Graves Farm. They took me there. So you know how to get there, is what you're telling me. Your pet wolf can barely talk, Jazelle says. Anything alarming turns her brain to mush. I doubt she retains any information. I'm confused. Hang on. If Nin is in lupus form, how is Jazelle able to understand her? Nin snarls, but Jazelle ignores her and continues. Or maybe she just said that offhandedly, like off the cuff. We might be able to turn up something more here, but if not, we can reach Pine Island before the sun sets. Fenris wants to learn what happened to Scarper as badly as you do. Or is she a werewolf? Is she a member of the cult of Fenris? I don't think she is. Maybe she is. I don't know. There's so many characters and so many plot threads in this. Fenris wants to learn what happened to Scarper as badly as you do, but his acolytes are too disorganized to conduct an investigation. Let's go there and find something useful that I can bring back to Heinrich, and you can bring back to that bog woman who thinks she's a princess. Giselle's proposal makes sense. The three of you search every inch of the apartment and turn up nothing notable, though you do find your high school laptop case and a few other memory from your old life. With no other leads at the apartment, you check online for Pine Island Retreat. There's nothing except a single mention in a Gazette article from 1976. Maps reveal only that Pine Island is a tiny island in a lake. There don't appear to be any structures on the island itself, though you can see cabins around the lake. You could start there, though you don't want to be wandering the woods after the sun sets. Jazelle drives west along little used roads, getting nowhere close to the roads you use to hike. Oh God. Getting nowhere close to the roads you used to hitch your way into Northampton last year. She doesn't bother with the GPS. Her crossover bounces over unpaved lanes that circle Pine Island Lake as the setting sun turns the sky red and the trees black. Give me the pamphlet, Jazelle says. You hand it over to the witch and she studies it, then says, Cell service? I have some bars, you say. It's already late, Jazelle says. We'll split up and circle the lake in opposite directions, looking for the sort of neglected place a werewolf might have stayed. And also for anything that might lead us to the answering tiger. Nin's gaze is fixed on something up the hill. Is that where the Fomori took you after the Battle of Graves Farm, you whisper? The Galliard nods. Hey, Jazelle, what do you know about Fomori? I'm so confused about her motivations. No. Oh, God. I see Tuatha De Danann. I see Tuatha De Danann. And I am a huge fan of Changeling. And so I see Tuatha De Danann. She's not a changeling, is she? She's not a she, is she? Enemies of the Tuatha De Danann in Irish mythology, Jazelle says. English and French-speaking werewolves adopted the term to refer to demon-possessed humans, though the actual children of Danu were really... Why? Do you see some? You had expected something insightful, not one of Elton's dictionary definitions. No, but... I was here once, Nin says. You recognize something? Jazelle asks the Galliard. Nin nods. Then let's go, the witch says, stepping out of the crossover. A short hike up a slope leads you to the remnants of a cabin, burned down to the dead grass. Jazelle slips past you, removes a glove, and touches the earth. This place burned a few years ago, she says. Scarper couldn't have stayed here. It's getting dark. You can see in the dark, Nin says. Jazelle's expression burns for a moment with such fury that you think she's going to blast Nin into flinders. But she slowly masters herself, then says, when it gets dark, it gets cold, and I already went through my ascetic phase. Our best plan is to split up, circle the lake. Nin's expression is unreadable. Oh, let's do the stupidest thing on the planet. We should either stick with Nin or stick with Jazelle. So either we're safety with numbers or so we can watch Jazelle. Let's all split up to maximize our chances of getting murdered. Your woodland survival... I mean, I took everything in survival. Your woodland survival skills will be necessary to help you find anything interesting in these woods, but you see a few ways to minimize the amount of wandering you'll have to do. Spirit owls flit among the branches, yours and Nin's. Owl's keen vision will help any approach except bullheaded endurance. I could shift into my direwolf form, but that would be the smart thing to do. And I only have one rage, right? And I don't want to lose it. So we need to be patient and systematic, just like before. I check every pine needle, then I check it again, looking for signs of Scarper's passage. Let's split the party has never gone wrong before. No, I love when my players split the party because that gives me the opportunity to really make them regret it. You didn't understand how much of this country is wilderness until after your first change. Scarper taught you that the sheer area that humans never enter helps keep Garu safe. Even in New England, you can walk away from a road and hit hundreds of square miles of trees, ravines, and almost nothing else. But that works against you too. There's no quick and clever trick to finding Scarper's path. You just have to pay attention and look for anything that might imply a werewolf's passing. Hair, spore, markings, anything. The rising mist doesn't help. It's actually your sense of touch that provides you with your first clue. As you crawl along a slope, your gloved hand touches a deep furrow in the shape of a clawed print. Could be a dog, but you doubt it. Following that impression, you find a birch tree with some of its bark scratched off at lupus level. That turns into a dead end, but you double back, recross the paw print, and trace it in the other direction to a frozen brook, where you find what's left of a sock. Scarper always forgot to take off his socks before changing. You keep moving, and less than a minute later you notice a little cabin high up on a slope, shielded from view from every direction except from where you're standing. You hide behind an elm as the wind picks up again, blowing away the mist around your leather boots. You check the satellite imagery, and though you can see the cabin there, almost entirely hidden by trees, it doesn't show up on the other more abstract data layers. Avoiding a patch of river that flows fast enough that the ice is dangerously thin, you scramble up the slope towards the small cabin, luminous in the pale mist beneath the light of the gibbous moon. The bitter wind doesn't seem to touch the mist, even as it slices through your leather jacket and rattles the dry tree limbs overhead. You're just wondering where Jazelle is when the witch appears behind you, following your tracks, a cigarette clenched tight between bloodless white lips. This it? She says. Might be, you say. Despite the cold, you're still holding up well, which means you're able to pay attention when you check the unlocked door. So you easily notice the trap. Go me with my 1 intelligence. Well, I might have some awareness that I'm not aware of. It looks like the easiest way out is through, so you open the unlocked door and step to one side. A bayonet swings down from above the door, aimed at heart level. It hits empty air. A bit spiteful, don't you think? Jazelle says. You examine the mechanism. Interestingly, this isn't one of Scarper's designs. The bayonet is rusty, marine issue, and OKC, something you forget. Like that K-bar knife that Horseman had on your very first hunt back in New York. In all likelihood, someone connected to the Eater of Names / Neo-Albion Alliance built this trap years ago, and Scarper just refurbished it. The interior of the cabin shows signs of a hasty departure, including scattered clothes and open drawers. The clothes, the lingering smell, and the general style of clutter tell you Scarper was here. Half-assembled traps indicate that he planned to make someone's arrival even worse. It's bitterly cold inside, so you push what's left of the bayonet apparatus up onto the ceiling and close the door. Jazelle immediately lights a cigarette. Old blood, Nin says. The area next to the bed is filthy with frozen bandages and bloody towels. A rugged plastic case lies open and abandoned beside the bed. The case is half full of stainless steel surgical tools. The ones in the case are pristine, others scattered on the floor or lying among the stiff, dirty sheets are dark with old blood. Jazelle adjusts her gloves and picks up a pair of obstetrical forceps. My goodness. I doubt Scarper handled a difficult birth in here, Jazelle says. He was tearing something out, Nin says. He was trying, the witch says, picking up a broken scalpel. Obviously, he failed. How did he even think he'd be able to remove Eater of Names? Yeah. That seems like a good idea. I only have 1 intelligence, so I don't think I should be, like, looking into what these surgical tools are for. But my awareness is not terrible, right? Me checking stats. I have 1 awareness. I am of no help here. I will watch the windows. I'm of 0 help here. Terrible. I shouldn't have been brought along. You check the windows as the same trigger that released the bayonet could have summoned worse dangers through electronic or mechanical means, but it's quiet outside. As you check each window, you find pieces of traps that Scarper didn't have time to finish, including some shotgun shells you pocket for Podge. Satisfied that you're not under immediate threat, you examine the surgical tools. You retrieve them all and assemble them on the table, separating the pristine and the bloody instruments. As you handle the tools, you realize what their design reminds you of, Daphne Clear's pistol. It's not just a coincidental similarity either. The tools have the same sinuous lines and the same grain pattern on their handles. By this time, Nin has stripped the filthy bed, shaken it out, and turned out all the clothes, then searched the empty bathroom without finding anything. The kitchen is also empty except for a few cereal boxes, but Jazelle finally finishes her cigarette. She knocks on the low wooden ceiling, then reaches blindly into a crooked corner where wall meets ceiling, pulls out a notebook, and drops it on the table. Wow, she says. What a stroke of luck. Really? Seems like you knew it was there. Well, I hate stopping in the middle of a chapter because I'll never know if I have to go back and play through if they update the game. I'm gonna see if I can figure out a way to like turn off Steam updates like while up until I play again, and then turn it back on and see if that helps, like up until I get to the next chapter. But I hope everyone has an amazing weekend. It's not terrible for Sierra. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And I'm loving this game. This game has so many... Oh, man, you really need to pay attention. Because I feel like I'm missing so much key information if I'm not like really, really paying attention at all times. But it's amazingly written. And I can't wait to get to the end. I can't wait. I can't even imagine what the ending is at this point in the story. And I'm super excited to get there. But thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you again on Thursday. Yes. Bye-bye.